Hello, this is Antonio Capizzoli, and this is my visual scripting presentation. For Project 1, I did a tutorial on clouds that uses Unity Shader Graph. So here it is. This is the final product. It's basically just this effect of like this endless wave of clouds. So yeah, it's pretty cool. The scene is not that complicated. Basically, I have this sky disk that I modeled in Blender, and then there's a shader that's attached to it. And then I also have a cube in here that just kind of demonstrates one of the properties of the shader that we'll be getting into in a bit. So yeah, so next up I'll show the model that I made in Blender. This is just some of the first few steps right here, and then this is the final product. Basically, it's just a giant plane, a giant disk that just has a bunch of vertices, and the shader will map all these vertices to like a y value. So they'll either be going up or down, and that'll basically that's kind of what gives this its shape. So yeah. Next we'll look at the actual shader itself. So I grouped some of these together just to make it a little bit more easier to understand. So the projection, this is just basically what actually maps the shader onto the Blender model. So yeah, the time node also allows us to make it so it's not just a stationary, I guess, like shader. It moves along over time. This is the original like noise, I guess, part. So we just basically the whole thing is built off these gradient noises, and the y value, or like the up and down, basically coincides with like the white, or like the value of the color. So I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain in this. Another thing to point out is that all of these are properties. These little things, they're properties that you can change on the fly in the Unity in the project file. So this is the original noise part, and then we also added a modifier right here that just basically adds more variables that we can change, and also just gives it more of a distinctive look, and just, you know, more modability. This is another noise mod. It's just basically the same thing, but just kind of gives it a different effect, as you can see. And then finally we have the final product right here. And then after that we have a few more parts of this shader. So this is like a Fresnel effect, which basically makes it so the edges are going to be brighter, or yeah, basically it's gonna be so the edges will actually blend in with like the back, sort of making it look like it's, you know, off in the distance instead of just, you know, a single plane. And then to help with that, we also have a bowl curvature part of the shader, and basically I can demonstrate this right now with a variable curvature radius. So we've attached this, which basically makes it so we can make a you can give it like a bowl sort of shape, and it just helps make it look more infinite, because if it was just flat, you know, you'd be able to see, like, even in here you'd see like this, you start seeing like the yellow, I guess, skybox. So by lowering that to the correct value, we can give it a bit of a cooler effect, more infinite looking. Finally, well, not finally, we also have this vertex offset that just kind of helps with getting this sorted out. And then we also have a depth fade, which basically this is what the box is for. So you can see how the shader has a bit of transparency to it. So if I lower the fade depth all the way, you'll see basically turns off all the transparency. As I raise the value, there's more transparency, and so that just kind of gives it this cool effect where it's like interacting, I guess, with anything that's like placed in on it. So yeah, other than that, we just have a basic color node here that people can put into the valley and peak, so you can change up the colors, and then just some emission, just as another added variable. All these are then attached to like the master node here, and then yeah, so you're able to mess around with this quite a bit with all these values right here. Not a lot of them do like too much, but something like base strength, as you can see, can start making some weird, funky sort of things going on here. Yeah, so I think next steps for me actually is probably to try to implement this shader in like a different way, because you know, this is in this, it's like intended to be like, you know, a wave of like infinite clouds, but very easily I could see this being useful when you're making like waters or just like big oceans, or you know, really anything. And as I demonstrate, like, you know, you can just change a value just a little bit and start coming with some really weird things, as you can see. So yeah, yeah, that's the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Yeah.